Advanced Financial Analysis Setup. In this session, we have several objectives. The first one is to enable you to handle more complex situations when performing financial analysis. The second is to make your analysis more dynamic. That means it automatically updates and can handle changes easily. We also want to make sure that your analysis is more detailed and more precise. Finally, this will enable you to produce professional grades of output and become a world-class financial analyst. Let's flip over to Excel now and get going. Let's get into some more advanced financial analysis setup. If we right-click on Financial Analysis, we can move or copy, and we can create a copy. So by creating a copy, we duplicate the worksheet. Click on Research so that the new worksheet goes between Financial Analysis and Research, and press OK. We can double-click on it to rename it. Let's delete the number 2 at the end, and let's add Advanced to the beginning of it. Let's press Control Page Up to go to our original tab, and let's call that Basic, and press Enter. So now we've got 3 worksheets. Let's actually insert one more, and we can drag it and move it in between Advanced and Research. And let's call it Extra Data, and add a double arrow sign to the end of it. So what we're actually doing here is inserting a sheet simply to use it as a way of organizing our information. So we have our 2 active pieces of analysis on the left here, and then a separator that's pointing to extra research or extra data that we don't want to delete, but we're not necessarily actively using. We can further separate things by clicking on extra data, right click, and then tab color. We could actually change this to be a dark gray, for example. Keep extra research on the end with an unchanged color, and perhaps select both of these, right click on them, and then tab color, and we might want to make the active ones a particular shade of blue or whatever works for you. So now we've got these active sheets as financial analysis, extra data, and research. The next thing we're going to do is use some grouping and some more shading to further organize the information. So imagine if we wanted to create a section just for the income statement and a section just for the assumptions that we could easily open and close. We're going to do that with grouping. So we're going to select all of the cells below income statement, all of the rows, and press Shift Spacebar. Shift Spacebar automatically selects those rows. And we're going to group the cells by pressing Alt, A for data, G for group, and then press G again to confirm grouping. And what that does is that gives you a little minus button you can click here that collapses the entire income statement section and then opens it up again. You'll notice that I did not group the title of the section, as then when it's closed I wouldn't be able to see a label for what's contained there. We can further format this section by selecting these cells, pressing Alt, H, H for background, M for more, and you can set a custom color here, or you could pick a preset color, whatever you like. We're going to use another CFI color, and press Enter. To apply these formatting changes to the rest of the sheet, we can copy this, paste here, Alt, H, V, S, and T for formats, and then select the cells below, Shift Spacebar, Alt, A, G, and G again. And now we've grouped the assumptions as well. So we can collapse everything, and we have each section as being independently able to be opened or closed, and this is very nicely formatted now. Let's continue building out our analysis by creating a new section. We're going to copy one of these headings from above and paste it down below, and let's rename it Analysis. Now what we're going to do is label this Common Size Income Statement, and then below it we're going to copy and paste all of the line items on the income statement. let's paste them here. Alt H, V, S for special, and then V for values. So we've got the entire income statement right here. We can bold this heading. And what we do with a common size income statement is take every line item on the income statement in each year and divide it by revenue. So we start with revenue divided by itself. And this is where we want to do some anchoring. If we press F4 once, it adds $2 signs. That means that if we copy and paste this formula anywhere else, it's going to freeze the reference to D and 4. If we press F4 again, it's only going to freeze the reference to row 4. Once again, it's only going to freeze the reference to column D. And if you press F4 one more time, there's no anchoring. So let's press it twice so that it's always locking in row 4, but it's not locking in the column. Press Alt H P to make it a percentage and Alt H 0 to add a decimal place. Now, because we've done this anchoring, we can fill everything down with just Control D. And when we do that, if we press F2 to take a closer look at what we've got, we can see that it's referencing whatever line item on the income statement we want and dividing it by revenue. And what's more, we can take all of this using Shift and the right arrow, select everything to the right, press Control R and fill it across, and then we can check and make sure that this is working properly, which it is. Now, these numbers are all the same in each year because we've just kept the assumptions constant. But you could see how this would change over time if all we do is change any of these assumptions, for example. You can see that then everything else below changes. So this is dynamically linked and set up. Now let's add another piece of analysis. Let's call it percent change. And this is a basic form of sensitivity analysis. We can go up and copy all of the line items that were on the common size income statement and paste them below. And then in this cell here, where we have percent change in column C, we can add a number. Let's say 10%, Alt H P to make it a percentage, Alt H FC to make it the hard code blue color. And now we've got a cell here that we can reference everything to, and we can calculate then the percentage change in all numbers as that assumption changes. So we're going to make this formula equal to revenue and each line item in each time period times 1 plus this assumption here. Now this time we anchor with F4, just pressing it once so that we are always referring to cell C36 no matter where we copy and paste the formula. Now let's borrow some formatting from elsewhere in the model by copying and pasting Alt H V S and then T for formats. We can copy this to the right by pressing Control R or filling right. And you can see that the reference is always to the same cell here, and if we scroll up, it's moving across to different revenue numbers. Now we can take this and fill it down with Control D, and what we should see is that it moves down the income statement, which it does, but as we move across, it always refers to the same cell here and continues to move across the income statement, which it does. If we change this number here to 0 then, all of these numbers here are exactly the same as the numbers on the income statement up here. You can compare this number if you want to double check, and you see that it's exactly the same. Now we can see what happens if everything increases by 1%, by 2%, by 5%, etc., or even if it declines. You can see what happens. So this is a powerful way of building some more dynamic functionality into a piece of analysis. The last thing we will do here is bold this title, and we will select all of the cells here, all of the rows that are part of the analysis section here. Press Shift Spacebar to highlight everything, and then Alt A for data, G for group, and G for group again. Now what I can do is press 1 and 1 collapses all of the group cells, 2 opens all of the group cells. So we've got some very organized analysis here in our little model. Let's continue working through our advanced financial analysis. One little tip we're going to give you now is how to change multiple sheets at once. So if you notice that we've got 2 sheets here that are identical, other than some grouping and additional analysis under the advanced section, if you hold down Shift and select both of these worksheets, both tabs, you can now make edits in this worksheet that will apply to both. So for example, you could change the starting year to be 2020. And if you do that, and you click away so that you've unselected both of these sheets, you'll notice that that change is applied to both of them. So this can be very helpful when you need to work on multiple sheets and make multiple changes to them. But it can also be very dangerous if you're not paying attention and you sort of forget that both of them are connected and you're editing 2 sheets at once. So let's change it back to 2016. But that can be a very handy tool when you're performing your analysis. Now let's look at how to name cells and how to name ranges. So imagine that we're continuing with our analysis here, and we want to make a calculation down here for EBITDA. And if we open up every section here, EBITDA is obviously located on the income statement, but we could also calculate it by taking gross profit and deducting SG&A. That will give us EBITDA. And we could build a formula the traditional way where we take gross profit and we subtract SG&A and we get EBITDA. But let's look at another way to do this using named ranges and named cells. If we select this entire row and we press Alt M for formulas and N for name manager and then press new, you'll notice that it's suggesting a name for us for this range, which is gross profit because it's the leftmost cell in the range. And you'll notice that it refers to all of the cells in this row. So let's just press OK. So gross profit